Over the last 2 years, the Air Force has been reviewing ways to improve how we evaluate enlisted performance. As the Chief of Staff and the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force relayed in their 31 July 2014 letter to airmen, we are completely overhauling the enlisted evaluations and promotion systems. This overhaul has been purposely gradual as we've phased in the changes and will continue to do so over the next 21 months for the Air Force Reserve component. Today we'll cover the why, what, when, and how of the new enlisted evaluation and reserve promotion system. We take an in-depth look at the changes to the enlisted evaluation system with specifics for the Air Force Reserve, which include the Airman Comprehensive Assessment, revised Air Force Form 910 and 911, and the new Air Force Form 912, senior endorsement restrictions, and force distribution. Additionally, we'll review the significant milestones we've implemented, the coming changes, and we will discuss how it will affect you now and in the future. But first, let's begin with the most important question on everyone's mind. Why are we making these changes? The primary reason for changing the enlisted evaluation process is to ensure performance is the #1 factor as airmen are evaluated and considered for promotion. One of the primary factors driving the new evaluation system change is providing commanders with a more effective mechanism to better delineate their best performers from the majority of their airmen. In order to successfully influence our total force enlisted promotion system, we must make changes to the way we capture performance and how we recommend airmen for promotion via the enlisted evaluation system to ensure that the Air Force promotes its best performing airmen first, that there is an accurate assessment of performance, that the evaluation system provides for equitable evaluation, and that the promotion system recognizes performance ahead of longevity and relationships. As we move forward with these changes, it is paramount that our focus remain on recognizing airmen's duty performance above all. We'll begin by reviewing the changes to the enlisted evaluation systems that have already occurred, and we'll discuss future changes scheduled to roll out over the next few months. The revised enlisted evaluation system has 3 primary purposes that directly support the 3 pillars of EES. The first is to provide ratees with meaningful feedback on what is expected of them, guidance on how well they are meeting those expectations, and guidance on how to better meet those established expectations via the ACA. The second is to provide ratees with a reliable, long-term, cumulative record of performance used when considering airmen for future roles and responsibilities. The third is to clearly identify a ratee's promotion potential. Commanders will continue to play an integral part in identifying airmen with the potential to serve in the next higher grade. The central focus and underlying foundation of all 3 ES pillars is duty performance. To make this new enlisted evaluation system successful, we must first begin with sound performance feedback. The Air Force introduced the new ACA, Airman Comprehensive Assessment, in July of 2014. The ACA is designed to be a cornerstone of the enlisted evaluation system, focusing on the Air Force fundamentals: accountability, responsibility, and Air Force culture. The ACA is also designed to help raters manage a ratee's expectations and provide ratees with meaningful performance feedback. Significant modifications were made to the Air Force Form 931 and 932 as we transitioned from the old performance feedback worksheet to the new ACA. The new form includes an area for ratees to provide a self-assessment relating to responsibility, accountability, Air Force culture, and self-reflection. Similar to the old forms, raters have the opportunity to assess a ratee's performance, followership, leadership, and the whole airman concept. Additionally, the Knowing Your Airman section facilitates open dialogue for raters and ratees to discuss topics such as ratees' goals, performance, and raters' expectations. Even though the forms are new, the feedback process remains the same. Ratees will still receive initial, midterm, and follow-up feedback, as well as rater-directed and ratee-requested, just as before. The second pillar in the new EES performance assessment has also been substantially changed. Beginning in August 2014, the Air Force began implementing static closeout dates and eliminating changes of reporting of official reports, eventually for all grades, beginning with the Reg Aft Tech Sergeants on November 30th of 2014 and ending with Reserve and Guard Staff Sergeants in October of 2016. By aligning the closeout dates by rank, every airman is now afforded the opportunity to be evaluated fairly and equitably with their peers. By phasing the implementation of SCODs for the total force, we're able to balance the workload more evenly throughout the year. The Air Force completed, on an average, 37,000 change of rater reports each year. By eliminating those reports and transitioning to static closeout dates, we will give a tremendous amount of time back to our airmen, supervisors, rating chains, commanders, commander support staffs, MPSs, and ARPC. Along with the CRO requirements, we are eliminating the 59-day extension request and the requirement for minimum days of supervision. One of the most significant changes to performance assessment is the revision of the Air Force Form 910 and 911 and the introduction of the Air Force Form 912, specifically designed for the Chief Master Sergeants and the RegAF Chief Master Sergeant Selects, which we'll discuss more about this later in the briefing. Finally, directed by commander reports are now only authorized to document substandard performance. Promotion recommendations will not be authorized on directed by commander reports. Before we take a look at those new forms, let's review the implementation timeline for the static closeout dates, otherwise referred to as the SCODs. As you see here, the timelines for rollout of the static closeout dates of the SCODs varies by component and by grade. For the Air Force Reserve, we began SCOD reports with our Chief Master Sergeants along with the RegAF and the Air National Guard in May of this year, and will continue to do so until January of 2017 for the Staff Sergeants. All reports due under the old system requirements of annual, biennial, and CRO evaluations will continue to be rendered until an accounting date for each of the SCODs are reached for each rank. CROs will then be eliminated for the rank and no longer authorized. All new SCOD evaluations will be on an even year for even ranks and odd year for odd ranks. All AFR personnel will go no longer than 24 months without an evaluation. For example, if a promotion happens after the SCOD for the new rank, then the member is required a directed by half report and will have a system-generated requirement to accomplish the evaluation. If they will go over the 24 months until the new established projected evaluation on the SCOD for the promoted rank, then the report will be accomplished. The new initiative in the EES rollout following the new ACA is the introduction of the Air Force Form 912, Chief Master on EPR. The form was officially released on 29 May 2015 and became effective for total force with the 31 May Chief Master Sergeant's static closeout date. The Air Force Form 912 is a 2-page report that includes a rater's assessment block allowing a maximum of 4 lines, a minimum of 1. The form also provides a senior rater performance assessment block, providing a 1-line block for comments. In addition, the form has 3 drop-down lists for use by the senior raters, which is utilized when the senior rater is vectoring their chiefs for positions of greater responsibility. Senior raters will select the appropriate consideration for higher responsibility and then make a maximum of 2 recommendations for future roles from the drop-down or by selecting other and typing in a recommendation. If command chiefs is the first consideration, the Air Force Reserve will not utilize the stratification blocks that appear on the 912. This section of the form will not be filled out as the Air Force Reserve currently will not stratify Chief Master Sergeant recommendations for command chief duty. You heard this the little word currently, right? That is subject to change. A second optional recommendation for future roles may be provided in the second drop-down list. Recommended future roles are optional, with the exception of command chief nominations, which are mandatory primary vectors and require written comments by the senior rater. The following are the recommendations that senior raters may make when evaluating a chief and considering for a position of higher responsibility. Ready now indicates a chief is ready to immediately assume greater responsibility in a more challenging position than he or she currently holds. When a chief is excelling in his or her current position and demonstrates growth potential in a position in a related specialty or different organizational level, he or she is considered on track. Current assignment indicates that a chief should remain in his or her current position for a variety of reasons, such as having been forecasted to move in the near term, having been evaluated as a chief in current position, those perhaps who have recently sewn on chief, and those with particular skill sets or expertise that requires him or her to stay in that place. or those in predefined tour lengths or nominative positions such as career field managers or on special duty assignments. This category also captures chiefs with an approved retirement on file to include those chiefs who will retire tenure while in their current position. Groom indicates that a chief requires additional grooming either in his or her current position or before assuming a position of higher responsibility. When a senior rater does not recommend a chief for retention, the evaluation constitutes a referral EPR, and requires comments from the senior rater. Also be aware that if a chief has not completed their CCAF degree, they are not authorized to be moved out of their current position and or into or placed against another senior master sergeant or chief master sergeant position. The senior raters are required to deliver performance assessments to chiefs. When accomplishing the Air Force Form 912 for Air Force reservists, senior raters need to take into account if a chief has completed a CCAF degree in any specialty when selecting a recommendation for higher responsibility and when recommending a chief for future roles. Also, the Air Force Reserve will not use the Command Chief Stratification section of the 912, and it is to remain blank. And filling in of this section currently will require return of the 912 to the senior rater to remove that stratification. The Air Force Form 911 has been extensively revised to complement the ACA and capture the new changes to the EES system. The Air Force Form 911 was developed to complement the ACA and therefore has two assessment areas that correlate to the Senior NCO ACA. The first assessment also allows raters to evaluate and rate on airmen based on performance in a variety of areas, including leadership, primary duties, followership, and training. A senior NCO must meet or exceed all expectations in order to move on to the second assessment area, the whole airman concept area. The whole airman concept area will be grayed out, and the form will not allow entrance into this area if met some but not all has been checked. A senior NCO marked as met some but not all expectations has not fulfilled responsibilities commensurate with the standards of performance expectations outlined in AFI 362618, the enlisted force structure, and therefore are not fulfilling the whole airman concept. As just mentioned, the second assessment allows raters to evaluate and rate an airman based on the whole airman concept in relation to the Air Force core values. Performance ratings on the Air Force Form 910 and Air Force Form 911 are based on the rater's subjective aggregated assessment of performance throughout the entire rating period. The new ratings also directly correlate with the evaluated areas on the applicable ACA form. The first performance rating is exceeds most, if not all expectations, which should be reserved for only a few, very few airmen that the rater rates. The next rating is exceeds some but not all expectations, which should be awarded to some airmen but not the majority. The majority of airmen should fall into the next rating, which is met all expectations. At the end of the rating spectrum is the final rating, met some but not all expectations. Note the use of routine or significant in the definition of the performance assessment rating. These are critical definitions to apply to airmen potentially in this category. As previously mentioned, airmen that fail in this category are not allowed to receive a performance assessment under the whole airman concept. As you can see, expectation now is that the majority of airmen should be rated somewhere in the middle of the rating scale versus our previous system that did not delineate top performers from the majority of airmen very well. It is important for raters to understand and embrace this shift in our culture in order to make these changes successful. Now let's take a look at the back of the Air Force Form 911. The rater will provide their overall performance assessment of the ratee during the rating period in Block 5. The additional rater comments are optional. When used, the additional rater may place up to 2 bullets in Block 7. The unit commander comments are also optional and when used are limited to 1 bullet along with up to 3 recommendations for future roles that best serve the Air Force and continue the ratee's development. The unit commander also annotates whether the ratee has completed the appropriate level of professional military education, CCAF, promotion eligibility and whether there are derogatory comments contained within the report, and if a quality force review has been accomplished. Block 9 allows the final evaluator the opportunity to provide a promotion recommendation, however, only when the rating is promotion eligible. Section 1 allows the final evaluator to provide an optional one line for the promotion recommendation. Section 2 denotes the position of the final evaluator, whether there are senior rater, deputy evaluator, or intermediate. Oh, that's fine. Section 3 is utilized for those ratees receiving senior rater endorsement and stratification. Stratification is limited to the top 10% of promotion eligible master sergeants by component and then by status, and the top 20% of promotion eligible senior master sergeants by component and then by status that are assigned to the senior rater. When a promotion eligible senior NCO garners senior rater endorsement, thereby being recognized in the senior rater's top 10 or top 20% of promotion eligibles in their grade and status. The senior rater will utilize their optional comments lines to include may utilize the optional comments line to include a written stratification, which we'll cover in the next slide. Each status will be stratified against its own status. For example, if in a typical unit, AGRs will be stratified against AGRs, IMAs against IMAs, ARTs and TRs will be stratified against ARTs and TRs. The total pool of eligibles will be driven by the number of each status assigned and will not be for the total number of any grade for all statuses. As previously stated, senior rater endorsement is restricted to the senior rater's top 10 of his or her time and grade promotion eligible master sergeants by status and top 20% of their promotion time and grade time and service eligible seniors by status. In addition to awarding senior rater endorsement, senior raters have the option to include written stratifications within the optional comment or push line located in the final evaluator's comments section on the 911. When used, the stratification must be represented by numerator over denominator designation that depicts where the senior NCO falls, numerator, within the senior rater's pool of Air Force Reserve promotion eligibles, denominator, by grade and status. Senior raters will be restricted to written stratification based on Air Force Reserve promotion eligibles by status and will no longer be authorized to stratify based on joint population or by total force population by grade or across statuses. For example, if a senior rater has 100 promotion eligible traditional reserve master sergeants, he or she may endorse up to 10 of those 100 TRs by marking the top 10% of master sergeants block on the 911. Plus, he or she can provide a written stratification in the push line, such as my number 1 of 100 TR master sergeants, if so desired. Senior raters also have the option to endorse a member without including a stratification. Senior rater endorsement is based on 2 primary factors: the ratee's history of sustained superior performance and the potential to serve in the next higher grade. Unlike previous policy, now only the senior rater may include written stratification on the EPR for those senior NCOs he or she endorses. All lower level stratifications and stratifications by deputies and intermediate evaluators is prohibited to include lower level stratifications on evaluations endorsed by the senior rater. As you can see in this Master Sergeant restricted endorsement chart, the distribution of restricted endorsements should mirror the same distribution pattern of the performance assessment, where before nearly all reservists that met requirements received senior rater endorsement, now only the top 10% of promotion eligible masters by status will receive senior rater endorsement. The majority of promotion eligible master sergeants will receive deputy evaluator endorsements, while few will receive intermediate endorsement. In the senior master sergeant restricted endorsement chart, you can see the intermediate and deputy evaluator endorsement remains relatively the same. However, the senior rater endorsement will increase to a maximum of 20% of time and grade, time and service promotion eligibles. As you see here, there are specific rule sets for the Air Force Reserve concerning the new evaluation system. First, the reason used for all initial static closeout date reports will be annual for AGRs and biennial for all others. It is the expectation that the majority of airmen will be rated somewhere in the middle of the rating scale and are meeting standards. AFR restricted stratifications will also be limited to top 10% of time and grade, time and service promotion eligible master sergeants and top 20% of time and grade, time and service promotion eligible seniors. Eligibility is based on time and grade and time and service only. Personnel do not have to occupy a higher graded position to be considered. Senior NCOs without the Senior NCO Academy, completed in residence or by correspondence, or without a CCF degree or both, will not be eligible for senior rater endorsement. Per recent guidance from General Mark Welsh on 7 September 2015, on Senior NCO reports, the Air Force Form 911, senior raters endorsement is restricted to the top 10% of promotion eligible masters and the top 20% of promotion eligible seniors. The senior rater may also add a stratification statement using the pool of eligible Air Force senior NCOs, but no one below the senior rater is authorized to include a stratification. In addition, written promotion recommendations are now only allowed on the enlisted evaluation, the Air Force Form 911, when a senior NCO is time and grade, time and service promotion eligible, and may only be made by the final evaluator, and may only be captured in Section 9, Final Evaluator's Comments section on the form. Written promotion recommendation statements are prohibited when a senior NCO is not promotion eligible by anyone other than the final evaluator or in any other section of the Air Force Form 911. For example, written promotion statements made by the unit commander, military or civilian director, other authorized reviewers, additional rater, or rater are prohibited. Now let's take a look at the Air Force Form 910 for Airmen Basic through Tech Sergeants. Like the 911, the Air Force Form 910 underwent a significant revision as we incorporated the EES changes and made the correlation between the ACA and the EPR form. Section 3 captures a rater's assessment of the ratee's performance of primary duties, including the new performance assessment ratings. This block also allows for up to 6 lines of rater's comments with a minimum of 1 line. Just as on the Air Force Form 911, an airman must meet or exceed all expectations in order to move on to the whole airman concept assessment area. An airman marked as met some but not all expectations is not fulfilling the whole airman concept. Section 4 addresses a ratee's followership and leadership and allows the rater up to 2 lines to provide additional optional comments. I'm not sure if you all have seen this form, so if you need to see it again after we're done, I don't know that it's released. So if you guys want to take a look at the form when we're done, we can go back and look at that. Section 5, is that what I just did, Adam? Section 5 assesses the ratees based on the whole airman concept and allows raters to provide up to 2 lines of optional comments. As previously mentioned, airmen who receive a met some but not all expectations in Section 3 will not be authorized performance assessment under the whole airman concept. The back of the Air Force Form 910 looks similar to the 911 with a few differences. The top section allows the rater to provide an overall performance assessment of the ratee during the rating period. Section 9 affords unit commanders an optional 1-line comment along with or up to 3 recommendations for future roles that best serve the Air Force and continues the ratee's development. The unit commander also annotates whether the ratee is promotion eligible, if there are any derogatory comments in the report, and if a quality force review has been accomplished. Section 6 allows the unit commander the opportunity to provide a promotion recommendation. However, only when the ratee is time and grade, time and service promotion eligible. As you can see here, there are specifics for the Air Force Reserve concerning the new Air Force Form 910. First, the reason used for all of the initial static closeout reports will be annual for AGRs and biennial for all others. Forced distribution is the limited number of top ratings, promote now and must promote, that a commander may allocate to the time and grade, time and service promotion eligible airmen. The Air Force Reserve currently will not enforce forced distribution, but all airmen must still be promotion eligible to receive a promotion recommendation. If a promotion recommendation is placed for a member not eligible on the evaluation will be returned for reaccomplishment. It is the expectation that the majority of reserve and total force airmen will be rated somewhere in the middle of the rating scale. Before we go any further, we need to take a closer look at the new promotion recommendations. The top promotion recommendation that a rating can receive is promote now. This recommendation is reserved for exemplary performers who far exceed Air Force standards and expectations. The second highest promotion rating is must promote, or MP. MPs are reserved for airmen recommended for accelerated promotion that are performing well above their peers and above Air Force standards and expectations. The majority of airmen will receive a promote, or P, recommendation. A promotion signifies an airman is being recommended for promotion based on his or her performance at or above Air Force standards and expectations. The next promotion recommendation is not ready now. An NRN recommendation is self-explanatory. The airman is not ready at this time for promotion based on the need for additional grooming in the current grade, or if the airman requires specific attention with regards to performance related to Air Force standards and expectations. This recommendation alone does not constitute a referral. The final evaluation recommendation is do not promote, or DNP. This recommendation should be used when airmen demonstrate unacceptable performance, fail to adhere to Air Force standards and expectations, or their actions were incompatible with continued Air Force service. A DNP in and of itself constitutes a referral. However, the evaluation must have already been referred based on negative comments or derogatory information that reflected the DNP recommendation. When a report contains negative comments, derogatory information, or have a performance assessment rating of met some but not all expectations, a ratee may not receive a promotion recommendation at any higher than not ready now. Now let's take a look at the changes to our senior NCO promotion process. For all Air Force Reserve personnel, completion of a CCAF degree in senior NCO is required for promotion to senior and chief. Before being authorized to be assigned, placed, or moved into a valid position graded as E8 or E9, Air Force Reserve Airmen must complete their CCAF and Senior NCO prior to placement, Senior NCO Academy prior to placement, and that member is not authorized to be assigned against that position. Promotion to the grade of Tech Sergeant now requires 24 months time in grade of Staff Sergeant and 6 years time in service for eligibility to promotion. Finally, the Air Force Reserve PEP program has been renamed Step 2. The program is still managed the same, with no changes to the current process anticipated at this time. Hopefully, you now have a better understanding of the paradigm shift and changes that we have implemented for the enlisted evaluation and reserve promotion systems, as well as for the rest of the changes that will be implemented in stages over the next 21 months for the Air Force Reserve. As the program continues to mature, Air Force REP, AFRC A1, and ARPC will continue to provide you additional details and guidance as they come available. So, there you go. A lot of changes, a lot of things that they're changing. Everything is changing, and we know that this is coming. This has been actually in the works for the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years. It is total force. Just so y'all know, kind of as a disclaimer, Air Force Reserve Command, AFRC, the headquarters, does not drive the changes with the policy for total force and the forms. We are in on all of the briefings, the decisions that are made, but this is total force. So when it looks like it's coming out a little clunky, it is coming out a little clunky because we're kind of building the plane as we fly it. So the forms come out, the guidance comes out. I see it just about the same time you all do. That's not the way it should be. I should, as AFRC A1 and ARPC, we should see it way before you all do so that we can smooth it out, send out the guidance, and we're all happy. That's not the way it's actually happening. So there's a lot of emails that I send out and say, thank you so much for your patience, right? So the issue just isn't the changing of the form. The issue is the changing of the mindset. There's some older folks that are in this room, not me, but there are older folks in this room that actually remember back in the days when we had 9s, when we've changed, we've tried to evolve. The consensus when Chief Cody came into office was that our evaluation system does not work. If everybody gets a 5 and everybody's great, who's great? Nobody's great. And when there was the commander's call previously, and Chief Goins, your command chief was standing up here, and he had actually said, he says, When we do boards, when we do awards, when we do all that kind of business, we don't look at the rating anymore. We don't look at the rating. Rating doesn't matter because everybody's a 5. That's not an effective way to do business. That's not how we should do it. If you're middle of the road and you are promoted, that means that you meet all and exceed expectations. That means you're great. That's the majority of the people. What is unfair with the previous process is that everybody was all the way to the right. The folks that were stellar performers and doing great things weren't recognized. We know that the majority of our force is awesome. We know that. We're the United States Air Force. We know that our force is awesome. That's what we do. But we have got to come up with a way to delineate who is super awesome, who requires something higher so that they can get recognized for their great duty. If everybody's the same, why would you go above and beyond? Why would you even try to be a better airman and to do the right things by our service? We've got to come up with a system to let those people shine and to put it down on paper. We have to do it. So this is what has come up. Now, we can change pieces of paper all day long. If we don't change the mindset of the people who are doing the rating and the processing and are figuring out or putting down on paper who the great people are, if we can't change that mindset, then we're going to fail again. So we did a leadership briefing yesterday, as Colonel Gunter had mentioned. Your leadership is all on board. They want this to work. They know that we're going in the right direction. We have just got to get that out to everybody to make sure that we're doing it all the same way. We got to follow what we're doing, or we're not doing anybody justice. And all this pain and agony that we've gone through will be for naught. We'll just go back right to the way we were before. So changing mindsets, changing the way we do things, changing feedback. ACAs, the former feedback forms, let's all be honest. I can't tell you the last time I've had a true and honest feedback. It was a, hey, how you doing? What's the back date so I can put on your evaluation? I know everybody is busy. I got that. Everybody's got that. But if we are not doing performance feedback, we're talking to our airmen, the folks that we rate, then we're not doing them any justice. We don't know anything about it. We don't know how great they're doing. How do we give them advice on where to go from here and how to be a better airman and to become a chief? How are we doing that? So the ACA is the first fundamental portion that we have got to come up with. And we have, not that we've got to come up with it, we need to accept and start doing, and doing it the correct way. Once we got the ACA done, and we got all that stuff on paper, the evaluation is going to be easy peasy. It's not even going to be hard, because what you put on that ACA form should go right on the evaluation. The form is set up that you could cut and paste from your ACA and put it in the form. It's set up that way. The ACA is also set up that not everybody is Firewall 5. It's impossible. If you read what is on the ACA, not everybody can be all the way to the right. It's physically and it's impossible to do. So if you're doing justice by the ACA, the rest of the job is good because you already have the performance feedback done. Nobody should be surprised when they're stratified top 10 and top 20%. Nobody should be surprised if they're not, because we've already done the feedback. We've been good raters, we've been good supervisors, we've been good mentors, and the honest feedback is there. If we're honest with the ratees, then the rest of our job is going to be easy. They're not going to be surprised, they're not going to be mad, they're going to know because we've already let them know.